Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Albers, and welcome to Dingo and the Coach. I am Dingo, and this is the Coach, and we haven't had an episode here in a while. Our last one was with Coach Stewart with Madeira. They ended up, unfortunately, losing to Wyoming, but they ended up going into the they're going to go to the playoffs.
Great year, though.
Just an unbelievable year for them.
Yep.
So, we try to do our coaches and get our coaches on here that we know, and it just so happens that, that we do happen to have a co-host here is the Coach,
yep.
And that's why this episode is named after this. And so we're going to get into Steve as the coach at UC Clermont, and this is number 6, right? 7th year.
Yeah,
that is absolutely amazing.
Yep.
So we're going to get into talking about this year's team. Talk a little bit about last year. It was a weird year last year.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about that. We'll get into some of the players, and then we're also getting into your schedule, which is really interesting and kind of cool this year. So, Steve, always awesome to get into basketball season. I'm kind of winding down the football season. And actually, we have a game coming up the next weekend, which is the 5th or 4th. And I've actually got a doubleheader that day. I've got a volleyball game in the afternoon, and then we hit your game for the first game. I am almost positive you can't wait for that game.
Oh, I'm so excited because, as we're going to talk about, it's been a little over a year.
Yeah.
So as the temperature changes this week, it went from 80 to 50, just like that. So it's basketball season.
So let's get into that. So last year was a really weird year.
Yep.
You had a team ready to kind of go. You were practicing. Things were going on.
Yep.
And then there were some more issues with COVID, and kind of get into that and how that all happened and when the decision was made to basically cancel the season.
All right, so I'm going to back up to 2 years ago, actually 2.5 years ago, when we had just come back from a national tournament, and it was that week when we came back is when the whole country and the whole world was shut down.
Wow.
That next year we actually had a season. We played a abbreviated schedule, but we had so many different things we had to do. The benches and the chairs and the bench were separated. We had to wear a mask, and it was just kind of crazy. We had temperature, taken every single day, but we were still able to play 16 games. I think that's what we played. And then we go into last year, and everything kind of doubled down after the school year had started, and a lot of the universities had come out, and even after school had started, and mandated the vaccination. And no matter where you stand on it, you got to follow the rules. And we didn't have enough players that had got vaccinated, so we had a full squad. I think we had 15 players. And we had a full schedule, and we did not have enough guys vaccinated, and so we had to shut down the season, unfortunately. And so, we went from, we were just starting to practice, and all this was coming down, and we had to shut it down, which was a crazy time.
When did it officially get shut down? Like, how close were you to the season?
No, we weren't close. We were just starting to practice. It was like the end of September.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the first game is usually like the first week of November. So, usually we practice for like a month or so before the first game. So it was right along there is when it all went down, and it was a kind of an eerie feeling for me, as you know, going a whole winter without coaching, or going to practice, and I was home for dinner every night,
or traveling on the weekends,
all that. So it was a different dynamic for me going into this whole past year of not coaching.
It was speaking of that, so I did announce those games that year that you had the brief shortened season, and we were actually on the opposite side, and there was nobody in the stands. It was just me and announcing, and it was weird for me to be announcing games too, because I like to scream and yell, obviously. When I'd yell 3 or whatever, you could hear yourself in there. People, the benches are looking at you and seeing you, and so the whole thing was weird, but it was cool that you were still able to try to get some games in, which was great. But it was just it was a weird year all around.
It was a weird year, and to go back to what you were saying, that thank God that you were able to broadcast those games, because as you said, nobody was allowed in the gym. So our chairs were separate. We had to wear masks. The referees had masks on, but you were able to come in and do the announcements so that the families could watch it, which is awesome. And you're going to do the games again for us this year. So I can't thank you enough for what you did then, and then you got a year off along with the rest of us.
I was getting ready to say I kind of had a year off too. It was kind of weird, didn't know what to do with myself. Been doing it for so long. So let's get it. So how hard? I know it was hard for you, obviously because we talk a lot, but how hard that was during the non-season. But how do you do any kids talk about that whole transition with the kids? So obviously a lot of those kids that were on the team, there's some that are back for this year's team, but there's a lot of kids that left. So how did that communication go with you talking to the kids and trying to figure out who's going to stay, who's going to go, and when do you start recruiting?
Well, I started recruiting right away, for the next year, for this year that we're getting ready to start here, and just talking to the guys and seeing who's in school, and just getting a base of who we have. And so because we didn't play, it allowed me to go scout more in person and see, talk to coaches and see players, and so I got a good jump on that. My staff with Doug Aston, Kyle Black, they do an unbelievable job on recruiting, especially Kyle Black. He's able to lock all that down, and so we were able to pinpoint who we wanted to go look at and actually see in person instead of waiting until March or April to see them. So we got to see some guys 3 or 4 or 5 times before we even were able to bring them into our gym.
How was that? How did you communicate with the current guys that you had on the team that you weren't sure if they're going to be there or not? How was that communication with them?
So it's just a basic, staying in touch, a text message every, couple weeks, checking in with them, see how they're doing, seeing what their plans are, see if they're in school, how their grades are, and if they're working at their game, and getting in the weight room and getting prepared for next year. And as soon as, in February, into February, we hit the ground running. The guys that wanted to come back, that were able to come back, were getting in the gym, and we were bringing, some new guys in, whether it be high school guys or other guys that wanted to transfer. And, we started forming our team, and it took a while, because you're almost starting from scratch again.
Right.
And we were lucky enough to have, our pick of who we wanted to bring in, for this year's team. And here we are.
So how many, what was the turnover rate? Was there, I know we're going to talk about it here in a few, but you got a couple guys on here that I recognize their names. So the turnover was what? You probably have 3 or 4 guys that came back from last year's team.
So we have 16 guys for this year, and 8 of them were going to be on the team last year.
8 were going to be on the team last year.
Yes.
Okay.
So we got half the guys to come back, and so we added 8 more.
And I just don't remember them because obviously we didn't see them, so I didn't know who was on there.
You know a few of them, from 2 years ago, but the guys that were going to play last year, you didn't get to see.
All right, so we get into this year. Let's kind of get going on this. But so when you kept in contact with them, what is the process of when you knew that you were going to have a season and you knew the guys were going to come back, who was going to come back? I think during the summer, don't you guys do open gyms to see who you want to have? Is that kind of how you do that?
Well, we had our team decided already before summer.
Okay.
We had that decided probably by the end of April, early May.
Okay.
Who we had locked in. So we had a good feel of what we needed, what we wanted, and to form a team, that could, play together. And so we were able to know ahead of time, and then start practicing some in the summer. We took August off, and then we started weightlifting in September, and then practicing now.
And so real quick, so is that, was that a hard thing to try to keep? I'm sure the kids though too, your roster, and I just remember from all the times we've talked, it could change drastically.
It did.
In the summer, like, oh, this guy is in, he's saying he's in, and then all of a sudden, I can't at work or something happened. And that's the difference between a small school and then obviously like the UCs or the big schools.
Right.
They've got the scholarships, they've got the resources.
They got the dorms.
They've got the dorms, and you don't. And so that roster, I'm sure, changed quite a bit from.
It did. I mean, and I could show you a roster. It's a lot different than what we actually have. But,
right.
But I think that we've upgraded, from what we thought we were going to have. So I feel really good about who we have right now. We're in our uniform.
All right. Well, let's get into the team that we've got this year. We're just going to run down in numerical order here.
Okay.
So
all right.
We're going to start off, and then you can try to kind of tell me. And if I mess up their names, this is going to give me some practice because I typically mess up a name here and there every year. So
that's all good.
We'll try to get it. So the first guy we got is it Kai Dietrich?
Yep.
Freshman, 6'6", Walnut Hills, and he's a center. So talk a little bit about him.
Great kid, hard worker. He was on a really good team at Walnut Hills, who's been really good the last couple of years. Our coach left and went to Indian Hill.
Right.
But really good kid, hard worker. We actually got him from one of his teammates' dads that we know really well, Chuck Stewart.
Okay.
Led us on to him, and we went and watched him play, and then we invited him out, and he's working really hard. He's still raw. He's a freshman, and we're hoping for big things. He loves to block shots.
And that gives you some size right there, and we'll kind of go down this roster, which I would have to say, since I've been broadcasting your games, this is one of the most height you've had on your team. And wow, I mean, you've had a couple guys, maybe one guy or two.
Yeah,
you've got
last year was going to be height.
Yeah,
we had some height too, but
it didn't just work out. So our next guy, number one, and everybody knows this guy. He's been around. This is his I guess fourth year. With a COVID year, he gets all that. So Greg Marsh, 5'7", Western Hills High School. Telling you what, we always talk about improving each year. Boy has definitely improved each year and has played lights out the last couple of years.
Well, wait till you see him. He's worked really hard during this last year being off in the weight room. Which has really helped him. He's matured and he's gotten stronger. He's a leader. He's one of our captains. He went, since we weren't playing, he went and coached.
Really?
Yeah. So that gave him a different perspective. So he's actually a coach on the court, as a point guard.
So that's good.
So we're really excited about Greg. I mean, he's really pumped too.
Yeah, he does. And he's just a great kid, and he's always very respectful, and just love watching him play. And he's had some big moments for UC Clermont in his 4 years.
Oh, yes, he has, and he's got more coming.
Now, here's my favorite guy. This guy I just absolutely loved it. Not that I don't like Greg or anybody else, but David Hunter, from day one, I fell in love with. Just the way that he plays. He's so intense. If you had every guy in your roster like a David Hunter, you're going to be just love him. Talk a little bit about David.
Well, everybody loves shooters and everybody loves big height, having height. But, if you want to, think of a poster child of who Steve Ellis likes to recruit,
David Hunter.
This guy.
It's
just, that's who exactly. I mean, just his heart and his effort. All the players on the team love him, and he's become more of a go-to guy. So we're relying heavily on him.
Not that he wasn't offensively skilled; he was always offensively and defensively skilled. But I think as he's matured, just like Greg, he can now do that a lot more, because I think before he was letting all the other guys that were older kind of do it. Now he's there.
Now he's the older guy.
And he's just a phenomenal player. So I can't wait to watch David come back again and play. So let's go now to Marlon Lyons. We've had Marlon Lyons a couple years ago. He is back now, 6'4" from Clark. He's very dynamic.
He's a bad matchup for other teams. The things that he can do. He can drive past you. He can knock down the jumpers. And so he's actually gotten stronger in that year off. And, we're really expecting big things from him, because he can really, really help us.
Absolutely. And then we're going to go, here's a newcomer here is Alan Powell, freshman, 5'10" from Hughes. He's a guard.
Oh, man, I love Alan Powell. He's all over the court. He's a great backup to G, but he can certainly play off guard as well. But the one thing I like about him is how hard he plays, and he plays great defense.
I know you love that.
Yes.
So that'll be one other guy I have to watch out there for. And then I think this is the guy that you call Bird, I believe, right?
Larry Bird.
And his name is David Froge, right?
Froge,
And he's from Indiana Tech, and and he's a guard. So talk a little bit about him. I think he's actually moved into lives over in the Eastgate area.
Yeah, so David's a great kid. We've been talking since last winter, and we brought him over and met him and his family, and he fits right in. He's very coachable, and he's actually a couple years older than some of these other guys. But the thing about David is he can shoot the lights out.
I'm going to tell you something. When I went to the scrimmage, and he's got a quick release, man. Yeah. I'm telling you.
He can shoot. Yeah. There's no question.
Yeah.
Indiana boy. Yeah. That's why we call him Larry Bird.
Yeah. I agree with that one. So then you got another guy here from Kentucky. We got our second Kentucky guy. It's here is Jabari Karim, 5'11", Dixie Heights High School guard.
Might be, if definitely in the top 2 or 3 most athletic guys on our team. I mean, he's super strong, super quick. He can shoot. I mean, he's kind of a freak of an athlete.
Yeah, and I'm just listening to what you're saying here. It's been a while since you've said a couple guys in a row that can shoot. Yeah, now you got guys that can score now.
Well, that's what it took for us to get to the national tournament a couple years ago.
Absolutely. So hopefully I don't mess this one up. Gavin
Rabe.
Gavin Rabe, 6'2", another Kentucky guy, Cooper High School. Talk about him.
Yeah, so he came from a very well coached program. Cooper is a great program, and he was going to play with us last year along with Jabari. When we didn't have a season, but Gavin is super athletic as well. He's super intense, very competitive. He plays so hard, and he knows where to be on the court on both ends, offense and defense, and he's going to do a lot of good things for us.
You love to hear that. And then we got Shep Lansall. He is from New Richmond, 6'1" guard. I believe his father has been an assistant coach for you.
Yes.
And he's back. Is that correct?
No, he actually moved to Houston, Texas.
Oh, he did.
With his job.
He was getting ready to, wasn't he? Or was
he was going to if he was still in town.
So talk a little bit about him.
So Shep is a great kid. As you know, we've known him since he was little, and he had a nice career at New Richmond High School. Obviously, being a coach's kid, he's going to know things that most other kids don't. He's very coachable. He's very likable. All the guys on the court, on the team like him. But he's contributing. He's doing really good things, and we're hoping that only continues for him, that he can contribute and help us win.
Well, good. And then Dad can watch the games on USPN Sports.
He's going to. He already said that.
Give him a couple shout outs there.
That's right.
So then we got, how about this one? Mid-Atlantic, North Carolina center, 6'4", Jonathan Bradley.
Yeah. So Mid-Atlantic is another school within our division, the USCAA, and he played down there, and he knew that we had gone to the national tournament a couple years ago.
I love it.
And he just moved here, and he still needed to go to the school. He had some family, I think, not too far away, but he wanted to come here and play. And he's a great kid, very coachable, plays so hard.
Good.
Gets the rebounds.
There's a theme here. I love it. And then we got Joel Isles. He's a freshman, 6'6", another Kentucky guy, Newport Catholic, Kentucky. Talk about him forward.
Yeah. So as you're saying, this is the most amount of Kentucky players we've had, which is great. Yeah. We're expanding our area, which is awesome. But Joel is another bad matchup, like Marlon. He can shoot, but he's got size, and he's been very well coached. We expect big things for him on both ends of the court. But if you leave him open, he's not going to down.
Right. Well, that's even better. And then we get Morris Duffy, sophomore, 6'1". It says IU Southeast Indiana guard. So we got 2 from Indiana here.
Yeah, and he was on him going back up to David Frojo's guys played NAIA schools. Okay, and they transferred here.
Good.
And so Morris was going to be on the team last year, and here he is now, and he's stuck around, and he's going to school, doing well. He's one of the older guys, so he's one of the leaders. Yeah. He plays so hard, and he's very vocal. So we're hoping that bleeds off on some of these other younger guys.
Absolutely. So this next guy I know, Mark Clark, freshman, 6'4", West Clermont, Ohio. Know his family very well, the Huber family, great family, and a good kid. And talk a little bit about him coming in as a freshman from West Clermont.
Super nice kid. He was going to be on a team last year. He can shoot. If he's open, he's going to knock it down. He's learning the program, and like a lot of freshmen, no different than him. It's the speed of the game is
right.
It's gotten a lot faster from when they played, and some of these guys have been off for a year. So we had a good scrimmage, and he contributed just along like everyone else did. Yep. So we're really happy that, it's not a huge drop off, but that, those guys, when their numbers are called, they're expected to go out there and perform, and they're going to.
And I'll tell you what, you might get a sellout if you get his family in there. Huber family's a pretty big family.
Get a whole section.
Get a whole section for the Hubers there.
That's right.
So then this guy's been around for a while too. He's another. I'll tell you what, another guy that each year's improved.
Yeah.
And Jackson Gregory had some big games for you before last year, before you had the season out. So talk a little bit about Jackson Gregory from Georgetown, Ohio, 6'5".
So he's got some experience now.
Yep.
He went to the national tournament along with David Hunter and Greg Marsh, and he's another bad matchup because he can shoot too, but he's got the size. Yep. Go get rebounds, and he knows the system. So having these guys in the system 2-3 years just helps in explaining who I am and who Doug is and Kyle, and he's been a big help. He's injured right now, but he's working on getting back. We're hoping to get him back by Christmas.
I was gonna say I was hoping that he'd be back. To get him in there, and a very intelligent kid too.
Oh, he's the smartest kid on the team.
Very intelligent kid. So then we're gonna go to Xavier Diallo. He is a 6'4", Victory Rock Academy in Florida.
Yeah, so he just moved here, and he's actually from the Senegal.
Really?
Yeah, and so he moved here, and he's going to school here, and now he's here, and he's still learning our game, not just UC Clermont, just how things are done.
Basketball's played, right?
Yeah, but he's very athletic, super nice kid, very coachable.
Well, so I went to the scrimmage Saturday and I asked you about him. I said he kind of reminded me of our former player that you had as Callie. And it kind of reminds me of him, but bigger and stronger.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing against Callie.
No.
But he just has that. And
his body is
pretty nice.
Yeah, we're hoping that he can come along and help us.
Yeah, absolutely. And then to round it out here, you get number 33, Zach Lucas, a freshman, 6'7". He was homeschooled. He's a center. Talk a little about him.
Super nice kid. He works so hard every day, and he's lost weight, and he's picking up on the speed of the game from where he came from, and he's not only pushing and helping our team in practice, but he's going to help us in games.
Yeah, well, that's good. So I know you, I've known you for forever, and I know how you are, and you're gonna say, oh, we're not there, we're not close, we're not this, we're not deep, we're not that, we're not and then come along as the season goes along. You guys every year that I've been doing this with you, you get better and better as the games go along. That first couple games, might be a little bit rough, and kids are trying to understand what's going on, but it's got to be exciting to start that first game. Will those nerves come back when you have that first game for you?
Oh, but the nerves came back in the first practice, and then we had our scrimmage last week, and just the whole dynamic. Okay, because we coached that one year of COVID year when we were all wearing masks, and it was all crazy. So I'm like a little kid right now, and I know the guys are chomping at the bit to play next Saturday, and we still got more practices to go, but we're really excited, and I know Doug is, and Kyle, and we cannot forget about our.
Oh yeah, I was getting ready to announce them up real quick. We got to tell your assistant coach is Doug Ast, and talk a little bit about Doug. He's been around with you for a while.
Doug's been with me by my side, and seemed like forever, and I don't know if I could coach a basketball game without him anymore. We're like hand in hand.
Right.
It sounds weird, but we almost finish each other's sentences when we're in practice. We're like the married couple on the court. But Doug helps me so much. Not just calming me down, but just in game and in practices, and it's just a great match that we've had together. And Kyle Black, who was helping us off the court at when we were in high school coaching the Marymount, but now he's on the court with us at UC Clermont. And he's been with us, and he helps with the stats and the recruiting. And we're not successful without him.
Right.
There's no question. Doug's dynamic is unbelievable, and Kyle's dynamic. We're all in this together, and it's just a great fit for all of us.
And then I can't leave this guy out. Has been with you almost from the beginning. I think it might have been from the beginning. Is Daniel Hennessy, my nephew, and I'm going to brag a little bit about him. He's probably one of the most loyal guys you can have. Yep. He gets just as excited as you and the players and everybody. And if you've ever seen some of our games and watched the videos, you can see him jumping up and down and running on the court.
Right.
And, he's just like an extension of everybody involved with the program.
And all the players come to learn and love Daniel because he's as much a part of the team.
Right.
And that really showed when we went to the national tournament how much it affected all the players and Daniel and myself included. But Daniel's been with us, so he knows our system.
Right.
He knows what our expectations are. He's not just your typical, hand out water guy.
Right.
And I've told him this year, you've been around long enough. I want you to be more vocal. You're in charge of the bench, and you're making sure guys are paying attention, are into it, and he plays a part of everything we do.
Well, I'm going to bring something else up too. He still is in touch with a lot of your former players.
Yes, he is,
and that's just how Daniel is. Just wears his heart on his sleeve, and I know he's excited. And he came to me at the scrimmage, and he came up to me, he goes, "We're going to be really good this year." So, but that's Daniel. Though.
Yes.
That's just the way Daniel is.
Excited.
So it's kind of cool to round out your staff, and then you got your athletic trainers, Connor Coyne.
Yeah,
is that right. I don't know much about him.
He's new.
He's new guy.
Yep.
So
unfortunately, we're giving him a lot of work right now with guys being injured and stuff. But he's probably getting broken in on who we are and how our games are, because it gets pretty loud, as you know.
Oh, it's going to be incredible. And the Cougar Dome, when it's jammed, it's probably one of the coolest small gyms that you'll ever be to. I love it when it's packed in there.
And you know who said that on WLW was Lance McAllister.
Yeah.
I mean, he talked about how good
cool it was. Yeah. It's just such a great atmosphere, especially when it's crowded. And we've had some big games there and some memorable games. Yes. It's just been pretty cool. Yep. So let's kind of get into your schedule here. Okay. You start off on the 5th, like we said, against Boys College at 4:00.
Yep.
And it's good and it's bad. It's great because the volleyball crowd can stick around, but then it's also, you got to, if it goes to an extra set, or if it might go a little bit longer,
right?
And it's an opening game, and I'm sure you guys want to get out there, but Boys College is always a good team, and it's a tough opener.
It is a tough opener, and our schedule has gotten tougher.
Yep.
There's been, I think, 3 or 4 teams that we normally played home and home that completely shut down their programs basically forever, or at least for the near future. 2 for sure off the top of my head is Southern State and Wright State Lake. Campbellsville, Somerset.
Really?
Yeah, and so those were 6 games right there. I know there's someone else I'm forgetting about that are normally on our schedule, and now we've picked up harder games, which is fine. We love the competition and see how it goes, and hopefully that prepares us and we can make the national tournament.
So it's really cool. Then you got Ohio Christian after that, but I think the couple that stick out to me that is unbelievably cool is on November the 12th, you go play NKU again at 2:00. Yeah. How cool is that?
It's really cool. It's cool for everybody involved from top to bottom. And, the players, they get to be, in that limelight, and we have the TV timeouts, and it's on ESPN, and
so cool.
It's extremely cool. I mean, we got to play. We were fortunate to play NKU a couple years ago, 3 years ago, I guess now, and
you actually lead for a little bit.
We were leading at the 16-minute timeout.
6-5 or something like that.
Yeah. Somebody took a picture of it, but I mean, those games, and I think you're going to bring up the next one too. Is when we get to play what they call money games. Where we get to go and play a much higher level D1 school. It's a great experience for us, but it's also great for recruiting. When I go and talk to somebody, it's like, okay, you can go play D3 in the middle of nowhere, or you could play with us, and we get a chance to play a D1 game, get a chance to win a national championship, chance to go down and practice down on main campus. I mean, all that stuff is what we bank on in trying to get recruits.
Not only one D1 team, but you got another one here. This one is super. Yeah. Nothing against NKU. I love that we're doing that.
Yeah.
But OU.
Going to OU.
OU called, and you're going to play OU, and that is going to be, what's that date again? I just lost it. That is going to be on November the 30th.
Yes.
And it's a 7:00 game. I believe that's a Wednesday night.
Yes.
And how cool is that? Do you remember getting the call and all that stuff? And
I mean, we're not seeking them out. They're seeking us out, which is very, very cool. And hopefully that's something that's an honor thing that they know that we're going to represent well and compete, and they're going to pay us our money, and it's great for recruiting, and it's going to be on ESPN, one of their ESPN channels, and it's just a great thing for our program to be able to do this, and not only is it an honor, but we hope that only multiplies our recruiting process.
I mean, I sit there and think about it, like, how do they like a couple years ago, didn't you play like Middle Tennessee State or something like that, or you played
Tennessee Martin?
Like how do they find you guys? Like,
I don't know.
I mean,
maybe from the exposure that you give us on
yeah, I don't know about that
on the Twitter.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But that's just real cool. So you do have a lot of new teams on here. I see OU Lancaster.
Yeah,
that's a new one. I see. Have you played Penn State Beaver before?
We have. It was one of my first or second years. We played them up there.
Yeah, so that's and then Simmons College of Kentucky. That's
down in Louisville. Yep.
We had St. Mary of the Woods. We had them, I believe, last year.
That was the women's.
Okay,
we are just now playing them for the first time.
And then what else do we got here? Community Christian Michigan.
That's a new school. Yep.
And then you've got some of the other ones that you've got on here. I see Miami Hamilton. That's one you've played before. Kent State Tuscaris you've got on there. Clark State. So there are the ones that you've played. Miami Middletown you've played before.
Yep.
So you got a lot of those. So what do you think will be the biggest challenge for you, particularly early on, before Christmas starts or before you get in December? You're already playing 2 D1 teams and your schedules is pretty tough. I mean, it's you've got Ohio Christian, you've got Boyce, you've got Asbury University. I mean, that's a tough beginning schedule for you.
It is a tough schedule, and our whole things that we've talked about with the team is coming together into good and bad. How do you react when things don't go so well for yourself or for the team?
Right.
How do you stay together to continue on to the next play, the next practice, the next game? And
right.
so we got some challenges ahead of us here. So we're ready for the challenge and we're preparing for it. We're getting physically and mentally ready, for this run. I feel like if we can put it together, we could be pretty fun to watch.
And so do you have a semi idea? Like if you had to play right now, do you know who your starters would be in your rotation, or is that still kind of a thing that works itself out as the season goes along? Well,
normally it's decided by now.
Yeah.
Right now we still are undecided.
Really?
And that's a good thing. We're going to be as deep, if not deeper, than we've ever been. So I've told the guys, when your number's called, just go perform, no matter how little or how much you play. And sometimes it's not about who starts, who ends the game at the end when it's close. So that's what we're banking on. Not worrying about me, worrying about we.
Right.
And about who doesn't matter who scores. Just do your job and get it done. And we feel if we can do that, we can win plenty of games here.
What do you think your biggest challenge will be with this team, or what do you think is your the thing that you like you look and you say, offensively I think we're really good, defensively I think we're going to be okay, free throw shooting, so what do you think would be probably the thing that you might be a little bit worried about maybe?
So this is a work in progress. It's all about the communication,
right?
So you got to be able to talk on offense, but you really got to be able to talk on defense,
right?
Especially the way we play. And so just getting these guys to open their mouth and get out of their comfort zone,
right?
Because let's face it, nowadays it's more about texting than it is about opening your mouth. And so just trying to get them, and we do drills that forces them to talk,
right?
And so if we can continue to get better at that, that's only going to help us on both ends. With the court.
So, and again, we can't end this podcast without bringing up Brian Sullivan, the AD at UC Clermont. He's just done a phenomenal job with all the programs, not just with basketball and volleyball and all the big sports, but you always have to have a great athletic director to lead your program. And we've been fortunate enough. I have been fortunate enough that I work at Anderson and do games for Anderson with Chris Newton.
Yep.
Then I go to UC Clermont and I've got Brian Sullivan. So for me, it's been absolutely wonderful. For you too, I'm sure that helps having an AD like Brian.
Oh, he is the most supportive AD that anybody could ask, but especially for me.
Right.
I mean, in the good and bad. When things aren't going well, he's the one that I call and he listens to me. But I always check in with him, and he is always very supportive, and he gets everything we want. And he was the one that was initiating help. Once those D1 schools called and say heck yeah and supporting all that, and
right.
It's just a great thing, and he does an unbelievable job, as you said, because since he's been there, however many years, just about every sport has won a national championship, and I mean, it's incredible. It is incredible. He does an unbelievable job.
Yeah, he really does. So I'm just looking real quick, and then we'll wrap this up. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you got 6. So you got 6 games before Christmas that are home, and the rest are you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9. You got 9 on the road. Before Christmas. That's a heavy load.
It is. It's going to really tell who we are and where we're at. And that'll kind of dictate going into the second half of the year. Trying to make a run to get to the national tournament.
Yeah. So I'm sure you're excited, just as I am, and we're going to pump this up and get for all the guys out there. And I'm excited to get back into. I was just sitting here thinking about that the other day, Steve. I'm like, man, I didn't even do any basketball last year. Like I didn't do anything. So it's like I had to get back in that flow again. and I'm glad I went to the scrimmage so I can at least put some bodies with number. And you guys had numbers on, which helped me out a lot too, to try to get familiar with everybody. So hopefully, we'll all get back into that groove again.
Oh, I have no doubt you will. Especially on that first 3-year dunk.
Oh, the 3-year dunk. Yeah, I'll go pretty crazy. So Steve, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy. Came up probably right from practice, I'm sure.
I did. But I appreciate you and what you do. I mean, obviously we do these podcasts together, but for you to take the time away from your family to come and do our games, I know you love it. But it's time consuming, and not only do I appreciate it, but my players and their families. Especially we have some guys that aren't from around here,
right.
So when you look and see who's listening or watching the games, you're going to have guys from Delaware and Indiana and all over the place.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool that we do that, and we appreciate all the guys able to watch the games, and we love the input that we get from everybody. And like I said, we've been at games before, and we have parents come up and say, "God, this has been awesome. You're doing great." And I always think I'm obviously a homer. I've always been a homer, but I always feel like I'm a little overboard. And they say no, they love it.
So we just as if the referees can hear you.
Oh, they wouldn't like me. They would not like me. I had an incident last year with one of them, or a couple of years ago.
Well, that's when there's nobody in the gym.
That's right.
So
that's a good point.
So we need to pack the gym. So
we need to pack the gym so the referees can't hear me.
Yeah,
because I say it a little bit louder when it's a bad call. So.
And you're pretty close to my bench.
Real close.
So I'm going to take the tee for you.
Yes, you will. Oh, that's great. We need it louder so they can't hear you stomping your foot either.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I think I've changed a little bit.
I think
I've mellowed. I've mellowed a little bit.
You have, but I've got a feeling, just knowing you, are you getting ready to sneeze?
No, well, a little bit.
I can tell. Yeah. So that's why we're going to have to wrap this thing up. Because you don't want to see him sneeze because it's one sneeze and then 3 right after that.
God. No,
so
it's all good. It's all good.
No, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this up for Dingo the coach. So I am Dingo. Yes. This is the coach. We're going to wrap it up, and then we'll try to get a podcast. We've got a couple of things lined up for our next episode, which will be really exciting to do. So hopefully that'll come to fruition, and we'll catch you guys next week. So for Dan Albers and Steve Ellis, you've been watching Dingo the coach. We'll catch you next week.